The Cleveland Cavaliers are now officially 14-0, and we're going to talk a little bit about that game and what all went into that, because Josh Giddey may be the worst defender in the game of basketball. Also, the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Kings go into OT in a thrilling game, and the Lakers win their fourth game in a row. We're going to talk about all that and more on today's Locked On Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On NBA Game Night. I'm Haize, host of Locked On Bulls. I'm joined by Swipa, host of Locked On Nuggets. And today's episode is brought to you guys by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Swiper, let's get started, man. The Cavs 14-0 to start off the season after a back-and-forth game kind of initially against the Chicago Bulls. Well, I can't say initially. They open up with 49 points in just the first quarter in that game to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Bulls come marching back. They briefly take the lead in the second quarter of this game. And then the third quarter was really back and forth, but the Cavs go ahead and finish it out in the fourth quarter of this game. Swiper, the defense was so bad from Josh Giddey today. The starting point guard for the team played 15 minutes before Billy Donovan basically sat him down, and it only brought him back into the game, I think, for a possession late because he wanted a pass from the inbounds. But other than that, he completely set Josh Giddey down. Zach LaVine had his worst game of the season so far, only scoring 8 points. Kobe and Vooch try to keep this team as float as they can, but eventually, Donovan Mitchell with 37, Darius Garland with 29, Jared Allen with 24. You also get 22 off the bench from Karis LeVert, who had a 5-minute stretch where, Swiper, I don't know, man, he went into like Derrick Rose mode. Like he was literally taking players off the dribble, finishing around the rim, and staring down Chicago Bulls defenders, and nobody knew what to do with him in this game. How'd you feel about it, Swiper?
Yeah, honestly, but he's been doing that all year. And, just shout out to the Cavs, man. Like, prior to this game, they were second in the NBA net rating. They had like a 109 defensive rating, a 120 offensive rating. They have played very well. Darius Garland's had a resurgence this year, and really, I think that's made the difference, over the course of the season for them so far. But today, man, like just looking at the numbers, and you just kind of see how dispersed they are in their scoring. With Darius with 29, Donovan with 37, Jared Allen gets 24. And the fact that they were able to do this, by the way, without being fully intact, goes to show you just the level of dominance that Cleveland has reached at this point. And I'm not going to lie to you, looking at the stat line and seeing Josh Giddey with 15 minutes played at a minus 27, that is like horrific business. But the Cavaliers, man, what they do, Haize, is that they take advantage of your weaknesses consistently offensively. Kenny Atkinson has modernized their offense. They're taking their top 10 in terms of three-point attempts this year, but they're at the very top of the league in three-point percentage coming into tonight's games. He has been able to maximize all the different level of shooters they have on the roster, and Dean Wade and George Niang. And George Niang is not even shooting as well as you would want him to yet. But Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, man, they're just putting so much pressure on you consistently. And tonight, the Bulls got off, man. Like the Bulls were able to score at a pretty high level today. They shot really well across the field. But the issue is that the Cavs have just reached a place offensively where they feel like they can put up buckets versus anybody because they're really trusting their scheme. And Donovan Mitchell, he hasn't had to have a lot of really elite performances so far this year because of the way that the scoring's been dispersed. And today, to be able to attack relentlessly tonight and be able to come away with 37 points in this game on 23 shots, man, just a super, super efficient performance from D. Mitch.
Yeah, and the key run in this game, too, because the Bulls were in the game, I think, late in the game. It was about 3 minutes left where they were like down 4 points. And then Karis LeVert and Donovan Mitchell went off. They went to 21-7 run in that game and just completely took away any hope from the Bulls really getting back into that game in a meaningful way at that point in time. And that just continues to be the story for the Bulls, is that they just can't close out games at all. But the Cavs' dominance is the thing that makes it deserves to be the story here. Like, they just continue to find a way. And like you said, even without Evan Mobley in this game, They're just so sound. Everybody on this team just understands their role so well. And this feels like the most complete, even though they kept the majority of this roster together, this feels like the most complete that this team has been with this version of the roster.
Yeah, I did a show earlier today with Adam Mades and Jason Timp, and one of the things that I mentioned in the show about when you become a dominant team in a regular season, it's all about like culture, chemistry, and fit. And when you're able to put together a unit that knows how to play together, that believes in playing together, that has an identity, and everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, and they accept their role, it allows for them to flourish, but it also allows for them to be able to trust the coaching, to trust the front office and the decisions they're making, to trust their teammates. And that's exactly where they are. They have been building this project for years, ever since Donovan Mitchell got there. And again, their schedule is pretty fluff. But again, there's no disrespect to the Cavs, but they've been beating a lot of not so good teams to mid teams to bad teams. But the thing is that you do that enough, they're right now in position to be able to run away with the top 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. Like run away with where it's not close. And wins like tonight, they just go to show you that when they got to hit an extra gear late in 4 quarters that are centered around them building that chemistry and that culture, they're able to do it in ways that not many people in the league can.
100%. 100%. The next game on the docket today, this was probably the most exciting game for me tonight, the Timberwolves and Kings. I didn't know what to do coming into this game, what to expect coming into this game, but Anthony Edwards with 26 points in this game. Julius Randle, who doesn't quite fit in. It doesn't seem like what this team had a solid night with 26 points. Naz Reid with 16 points off the bench. And they ended up getting this win in overtime, 130 to 126 to the Kings. How was your feelings on this one, Swiper?
So the Wolves are in a pretty interesting scenario. If you haven't been paying attention to the Wolves, they just lost back-to-back games versus Portland. And Portland, they just had a lot of athletes on the court, and they were really giving the Wolves a lot of issues. So Sacramento, they're not at the top of the West, but they're a very good team. So, one, to get this win is really important for them. But also, two, their defense has not been the same this year. They have been, up until today, a top 9 defense in the league, but they have shown slippage across the board. And tonight, man, the Kings, they were able to get off, man. Like, they were able to really hunt and attack them consistently, putting up 126 points in this game. But Anthony Edwards, after going, I believe it was 4 of 14, and then I would say 0 of 9 from 3. He goes 6 of 14 today, which is, respectable. That's a very good 3-point percentage. Only 2 free throws, though. Anthony Edwards has become a basically completely jump shot reliant player in a lot of ways. At least half his shot profile is coming from the 3-point line. So as they're trying to figure out their spacing, figure out the court dynamics, a lot of what Julius Randle has brought to this team is they do have more playmaking out of the post, but because of where he specializes at, it's also changing the way the court is laid out for them, especially when Anthony Edwards is looking for places to drive. And so they had a good game from him. Rudy Gobert, I would say a relatively really good defensive game for him for the most part. Has 41 minutes played in tonight's game, has a double-double. But, I'm telling you, man, the West is so crazy because you can get a great game from Cat, in the Knicks with 46 points. And then you come back and you get Giannis with 59 points. But then literally the next day, we'll talk about later, Anthony Davis comes out here with 40 and 10, and then you get De'Aaron Fox with 60 points and 7 assists on 22 of 35 from the field and 6 of 10 from 3 and 10 of 11 from the free throw line. Just a dominant performance, man. And I'm telling you, and you still lose. There's so much talent in the Western Conference, and when you watch this game, this is just a further highlight that when you get a chance to close games in the West, especially versus teams you're going to be competing against, you got to be able to close out those games.
Yeah, you got to be able to get it done because for De'Aaron Fox to score those 60 points, 26 of those coming in the fourth quarter and still walk away with a loss is crazy. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And with how tight that Western Conference is, and it's going to be for the entirety of the season, you never know. This win could actually end up coming back and biting them in their ass. You just never know. The West is just so crazy, and it's going to be that way for the entirety of the season. Before we get out of this though, and get into the first break, how do you feel about the Timberwolves right now through the first 3 weeks of the season? I know it feels like they lost a little something. Do you still think they have chance to go on a deep playoff run, or do you think this is a team that just is not going to have enough to go on that run this year?
Yeah, look, I think they can, but I don't believe they will. I just think their roster is extremely flawed offensively. You know, you're looking at the Rudy Gobert, the front court with Julius Randle and then Jaden McDaniels. Mike Conley's 37. You know, they depend so much on him for playmaking and for connected passing. I don't believe that they're going to, especially the right matchup. I just don't think they're going to have enough to be able to get it done. You know, we'll see how Dante DiVincenzo continues to improve for this team. But no, I think that there's going to be a team. I thought that either the Mavericks or Wolves were going to regress. Both of them have so far, but again, I think the Mavericks, they probably have a little bit more in their engine to come back and be one of the elite teams in the Western Conference. But you know, Julius Randle's their second option, man, and I just think come playoff time, because he traditionally has really struggled. I think he has like a 42 true shooting in the playoff setting. He's just never been able to put it together. And so I would just be shocked if he does it, especially having to have be situated next to Rudy Gobert for most of those series.
I agree with you there, man. Next up, we're going to be talking about the 76ers, and their struggling continues because it's going to be a difficult season for them. But before we get into that, I got to get into a message from Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, with a resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold, you can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privilege of the high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhoodgold.com. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhoodgold.com. Investing involves risk rate. May change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. All right, Swiper, man. The 76ers, I don't know what to say, man. Like, it's been a comedy of errors to start their season so far. Every time in every game where it looks like they may have a chance or their fan base is getting a little up, they just get knocked back down, this time to the Orlando Magic. And we actually have the host from Locked On Magic to talk about this game.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic, coming to you from the Kia Center as the Orlando Magic defeat the Philadelphia 76ers 98-86. And I know, the NBA Cup is not the NBA playoffs. It is still November. We've got a long way to go until March and April. But the NBA Cup is sort of a facsimile, an early facsimile for the playoffs. And in these games that the fans may put a little more pressure on, have a little bit more meaning, have a little bit more stakes, you do learn a lot about a team. And in this game, we learned that the Orlando Magic still have that playoff medal. We learned that they still have that maturity, that they have what it's going to take as they continue to develop to win in March, April, May, dare I say June? Probably too early for that. The Magic trailed by 10 in the third quarter. Their offense looked dead in the water, and then the defense put the vice grips on again. They hold the Philadelphia 76ers to 14 points, a 25-14 fourth quarter that enables them to zoom ahead and win the game. That's what it's going to take to win in the playoffs. That's what it's going to take to win without Paolo Banchero, and that's who the Magic are.
All right, Swiper. Without Paolo, the Orlando Magic are finding a way to just stay right above 500, which I think is key. If they can keep hovering around that until Paolo comes back in this Eastern Conference, that's going to be huge. But the Philadelphia 76ers, still with only 2 wins on the season. They're 2-10 right now to the start of the season. I think the last I saw, they have like a 4% chance to make the playoffs. How you feeling, Swiper?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It is it's going very badly for them, and it's really hard. Now, here's the thing, and this is no shade, as an Eastern Conference rep, but the East is so bad. They're 2-10, but they're just 4 games out of the 4 seed.
Mm-hmm.
They're 2-10, but they're only 3 games out of the 8th seed. The Eastern Conference has been mid and bad. The Pacers are the 8th seed. They're at 5-7 right now, so they easily could catch a nice little win streak, get right back into the hunt. But the problem is, I don't like the juju they have on their team. And what I mean by that is Paul George, if you have been paying attention at all, 16.5 points per game, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, 39% from the field, 31% from 3 to start the year off for Paul George. Joel Embiid, respectfully, looks horrible right now to start the year off. He looks out of shape. He's not scoring well. 16.5, 5.5, 3.5. And he's doing this on 27, 10 splits and 100% from the free throw line, go figure, and 48.6% true shooting. Now, again, he's going to get better. He's an MVP. But Tyrese Maxey's hurt. So you're going to be dealing with 3 injury-prone players that are your best players. And then you're trying to develop an identity with a new roster and a coach that's just in his second year. So you got new pieces on your team, new roster, a starting 5 that hasn't played together yet. And then by the time the playoffs come around, they're going to be hoping and expecting they're able to turn this into a championship year, which is why they got Paul George in the first place. I don't like that they're doing the exact opposite of the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're not building good habits. They're not building a good culture. Like Embiid, respectfully, great as he is still on the court, baiting fouls and flopping, and people are recording and they're saying, like, this is an issue. I just don't believe they're building good quality habits that will help you to be able to win when it matters most in April and in May. And this team is going to be uber talented. Haize, they're going to be a very difficult first round for anybody they play. But in terms of what do I expect from them, especially when it becomes winning time in the NBA playoffs, it's not even like a talent thing. Like, you just have to have a belief system in place. And beyond, shout out Jared McCain, 29 points, 10 to 17 today. Beyond that, man, I just don't feel good about this team.
No, you're completely valid in saying that. There's something about the 76ers team that they just don't have it. Now, we haven't gotten to see their 3 best players on the court all at the same time yet, so maybe that starts correcting it. But as of right now, based off what we have, this just does not look like a team, them and the Milwaukee Bucks, that's just going to pull themselves out of it.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I want to flip this real quick and talk about the other team. Franz Wagner is right now 7 straight games of 20 points or more. Keeping that up while Paolo's out is going to be important. Do you think Franz can keep this level of scoring up to help keep this Magic team afloat?
Yeah, I mean, he can. Their next several games are the Suns, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Hornets, the Bulls, and then the Nets. Those aren't like elite defensive teams, but a bunch of wings to throw at you. Maybe the Clippers, obviously, if Kawhi is there. But they just don't have like anybody that's coming in front of them that I think they're going to have to worry about consistently. So, yeah, I'm sure he can. But a lot of this is just they just need to continue to develop the playmaking around the rest of the roster. And by that, I mean, like, KCP hasn't had a good start to this year at all. Even KCP tonight, 8 points. He was 3 of 9 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3. Now he's a +8 because his defense is incredible.
Yeah.
But I think Franz is just going to have to continue to pick up some of the slack in terms of distributing the ball, becoming a better wing playmaker, becoming a better wing distributor, and then finding his own offense, self-creation, all that stuff, which he's doing. So he can do it. But I just think that they're just going to really have to try to find ways to round out his overall game that's going to help them come playoff time to be able to utilize a half-court offense in a really effective way.
Yeah. Completely agree with you there. So the thing is, you just mentioned distributing the ball. Let's move over to the Lakers where they get their 4th straight win. But Chris Paul becomes the 3rd player in NBA history to get 12,000 assists. He joins John Stockton and Jason Kidd. Before we talk about this game overall, how do you feel about Chris Paul and him hitting that accomplishment?
Look, I had a spicy take to start the year off. Shout out to Player's Choice. I said that Chris Paul was going to start the year off and be better than Fred VanVleet was. And a lot of people looked at me crazy and all that stuff. He's 39 years old. But again, you get Chris Paul, a really competent big, and then way more than competent in Victor Wembanyama. You give him a structure, Popovich's system. He's going to be able to win those minutes and to be able to lift your floor because of what he does on an IQ level and thinking the game, getting you a right shot, getting you a right play, even his defensive communication, even if he's not a good defender like he used to be anymore. And so to be able to get this start from Chris Paul and then tonight even get 11 points and 11 assists, again, a +5, man, that matters to me. Like, if you're a player that even in no matter how large the sample size is, you're able to consistently win your minutes, well, then I want to have you like on my team. I want to have you on my roster. And Chris Paul, man, his ability to be able to screen map or to court map and then navigate screens and be able to communicate and talk, he has been excellent for this team so far. And they have been dominant when he's been on the court.
And I think also them now moving Stephon Castle into the starting lineup with Chris Paul is also helping him considerably. And I do think the Spurs team is going to start winning more games. Let's talk about the team that actually won this game. The Lakers win this 120-115. Crazy stat lines from AD, 40 points, 12 assists. You get 15 from LeBron. He gets another triple-double, which I think is his fourth triple-double in a row.
Yep.
Like, this Lakers team just keeps finding a way. Like, they had that little brief period of time where I think they lost three in a row. They've since rebounded from that. They're now 8-4 in the competitive Western Conference. How you feeling about this Lakers team?
Well, I mean, they're taking care of business. Again, they beat the 76ers, obviously hampered. The Raptors, They beat the Grizzlies, injured. They beat the Spurs, not a great team. So, these are wins you got to pick up. Then they're playing the Pelicans next. They're probably going to beat them. They're playing the Jazz next. They're probably going to beat them. Then they got Magic, Nuggets, Suns, probably no Kevin Durant. And then they got the Spurs again. So, when you're facing this kind of softer portion of your schedule, you need to stack wins.
Yeah. And
ultimately, don't look now. Anthony Davis looks like he's a top 5 player in the league. He's probably top 3 in MVP candidacy right now. 40 and 12 on 14 and 26 and 2 of 4 from 3 and 10 of 12 from the free throw line and 2 blocks. That's a dominant player. And anybody in the league that puts up that stat line is going to get respect for it. So LeBron James, 4 straight triple-double. His playmaking has been outrageous this year. His shooting has gone really well this year. They inserted Cam Reddish into the lineup, bringing D'Angelo Russell off the bench. Again, they're finding something, and I think J.J. Redick is pressing all the right buttons.
J.J. Redick's doing such a good job as a coach. I can't stress that enough. He came in with the plan. He came in with the rotation. They faced some adversity. He made adjustments to that. And just to put it frank, J.J. Redick has been standing on business since he became the head coach of the Lakers. Mm-hmm. And as a rookie head coach, to have the poise and the foresight that he's had so far, it gives a really good prospect for how he's going to continue to be as a coach. And I think the Lakers got the right guy at coach. I just hope that in whatever the Lakers do, because I do think they're going to make a move at the trade deadline, that they just don't try to do too much there as far as star chase. They need to add something. If they can move D'Angelo Russell to get something to help that team out, I think that's really good. But I don't think they need to try to go for the home run hit and just let J.J. Redick continue to cook as a head coach here.
Yeah, I think just continuing to formulate your identity. They're an offensive team. You build around that. And, hopefully when Vando comes back, you can get enough perimeter defense from a locked-in LeBron, Vando, Cam Reddish, maybe Max Christie. He continues to develop and stuff. Max Christie, that's another story. 30 minutes played, 11 points, 3 rebounds, 4-7. He was a plus 23 off the bench. Guess what? He led the team in plus minus. I think J.J. Redick is continuing to find out, hey, this is what this player does well. I'm going to spam that, and then I'm going to help the young players to continue to develop their role the way they're supposed to. And you never know. They could end up being a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. Who knows?
They could. We'll see. Well, we're also going to go around the rest of the games in the NBA on Friday night. Before we get into that, got to get into a message from FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place your live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, man, let's go ahead and finish this up by going around the league with the rest of the games that we did not get to go in depth on. Real quick through these ones, man. Heat over Pacers 124-111. How do you feel about the Heat? They've been such an up and down team. We know Eric Spoelstra made the huge mistake in that game that he really apologized to his players with. And the Heat still trying to figure out. They've been playing better with Jimmy Butler kind of out. How you feeling about this Heat team?
Yeah, they're 2-1 in their last 3, and they get a really good win today. And Bam Adebayo plays like Bam Adebayo. He's had a very rough start to the year so far, but he has 30, 11, and 7 on 10 to 17 today. He's a plus 22, dominant defensive game for him. Scored at a really high volume, 8 of 9 from the free throw line, and he had 5 steals to go along with it as well. So Tyler Hero's having a career year so far. 2 years ago, he was one of the clutchest players in the league and one of the best bucket getters in the league, late game situations. And this year, he's done that. He's playmaking at probably the highest level of his career. He's assisting well this year, 20 points, been relatively efficient. They have see, the thing about Miami, their top end talent isn't crazy, but again, they have their culture and they buy into their culture, and that's what makes them elite.
For sure. Next up, let's finish this one with the Hawks today. The Hawks get a win over the Washington Wizards, 129-117. Dyson Daniels, I know he's not the star, whatever. The run that he's on, he's averaging 4.5 steals so far for the month of November. In the last 4 games, he's had six steals twice, 7 steals. And then if you want to go further than that, 4 steals in that 5th game. Dyson Daniels is on a crazy stretch right now. I think him as a young player has really, along with Jalen Johnson and those players, has really given this Atlanta Hawks team a nice kind of base of young talent here to now kind of build off on. How you feeling about the Hawks, and do you think they keep or trade Trey?
Well, here's the thing. Dyson Daniels, Zachary Richichet, that's their, and then with Trae Young, that is their vision. And for me, there's no reason to trade Trey. I mean, let them figure it out. Let them learn how to play together. Dyson Daniels is everything you've been trying to get next to Trey, and you got it for cheap. You did it for DeJounte Murray originally, and then you were able to trade him off. And in the deal back, you get Dyson Daniels, who's one of the best POA defenders in the league, off-ball defenders in the league, who has been incredible. And he 25 points on 10 of 14. Finding a guard that can score and defend is like finding water in a desert in the NBA. You don't find those. That's what makes Derek White and Drew Holiday so special. And they got one. And then they got Jalen Johnson, who is huge, 18, 13, and 7. And then you get, again, Trae Young not having to lift the entire world, 18 and 9. And you get a chance to do that in a win. So they need to keep them. And I think continue to develop them. And I think Zachary can be a real player one day as well.
Zachary Richichet has slowly gotten better over the course of the season. That's perfectly fine for a rookie, right? I understand that being the number 1 overall pick, the things that come with that, but he's come to the team with that veteran in Trey, and I think by the end of the season, I think he's going to be in a really good place, I think. Another team that's been improving, the New York Knicks, 124-122 over the Brooklyn Nets. The Knicks have won 3 out of their last 5. They're 6-6 now in the season at 500. Could this be a platform for them to jump off and start playing a little bit more stronger, more consistently? Or are you still kind of shaky on the New York Knicks, Swiper?
No, I think they can. They were always in my brain going to be an elite team. Shout out Cam Thomas, by the way. Cam Thomas was going off early in this game. He ends up with 43 points on 16 to 22, just some masterclass shooting. But I think the Knicks are going to be fine. I think it's just figuring out a defensive scheme that complements Cat. That's going to be the question. Figuring out how you can shore up some of his deficiencies, and then on the other end, to be able to make sure you're maximizing the stuff that they're doing really well. I think for Cat, for Brunson, for Mikal, for OG, for Josh Hart, they have a legitimate core. But again, I think the same thing I said about Cleveland. You got to develop good habits. And I think now they're trying to learn how to develop good habits. The problem is their defense hasn't shown up yet this year. But I think that's the thing that's going to come over time, figuring out how do you make it all work together while you're on the court.
Do you think that the Mikal Bridges signing, we know that his defense has fallen off drastically. He's not really shooting the ball too well either at the start of the season. You think he's going to come along as this thing goes on, or do you think that, because quiet be kept, Mikal Bridges has he's gotten worse defensively every year for the last 3 years. Is this something that can stop the slide being here under Tibbs, or is this just who Mikal Bridges is at this point?
So 16 points a game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.3 steals, 38 minutes a game, 48.5% from the field, 32.9 from 3. Don't love that. 63% from free throw. Don't love that at all. I think Mikal's going to continue to develop, but I think it's more so going to be about individual games, finding rhythm on certain games, but then finding a defensive floor that he can sustain playing versus these wings. That's what's going to be the big deal when they play versus Boston, when they play versus Cleveland in the playoffs. Can you put Mikal Bridges on one of their best perimeter options, and either gives you an opportunity to rest big, and then you don't have to have some of your other lineups in there that are focused on with OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson and all them, but you can actually give them some rest, vary your lineup constructions a little bit, and then take some pressure off of Jalen Brunson, man. If I do think he can get there, man, but again, figuring out how to play offense in that new system, figuring out how to play defense and cover for Cat. who's been one of the worst rim protectors of the modern era.
The worst.
To start the
Yeah,
year off.
he's been terrible.
Terrible, bro.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah. Moving on from that, the Rockets 125-104 over the Los Angeles Clippers. The Rockets recently said that their Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, a lot of their young players are not on the board as far as trades. I think that's the right decision here. The Rockets have accumulated their 9-4 so far in the season. I like how they've built off kind of the momentum that they had at the end of last season. How you feeling about these two teams?
Hey, look, shout out to the Clippers, man. They're fighting. They look good. Chris Dunn was one of my favorite pickups of the year for any team. But again, man, the Rockets just came out smacking today. Jabari Smith Jr., 28 and 11. Alperen Şengün. I think he's, I want to say he's the youngest center outside of Joker with apparently the 5 triple-doubles or something like that. But 16, 10, and 10 for him. Didn't shoot super well, but a plus 38. The big four outside of Jalen Green, they all balled. Jalen Green was 8 points and 5 rebounds today and 4 of 11. So he didn't do much of anything today, but they got a lot of players, man. They got a lot of players. And if I'm them, the future of the Rockets is easily going to be Amen Thompson, 12, 5, and 3 tonight. And then it's going to be Reed Shepherd. But again, Reed, everything's brand new for him. So it's just going to take some time. But man, I think their future is super bright.
Yeah. The Rockets have a very bright. They've built the right and still have some draft picks as well in there if they do need a will and deal. The Pelicans get a much needed win, 101-94 against your Denver Nuggets. Denver Nuggets now fall to 7-4 in the season, only their 4th loss in the season. It's nothing really to do much to do here, but how do you feel about the Pelicans in their season so far?
Yeah, man, they were missing Zion, DeJounte, CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado, missing 5 rotational players.
That's crazy.
Right. And they lost 6 straight games, and then they get a win versus a team, no Jokic, no Aaron Gordon, but had won 5 straight. That's a big deal for them. And Brandon Ingram, who didn't have the most efficient game that you've ever seen, he played well. And the Nuggets were having so many issues stopping him that they were doubling at the level often, and he was making the right pass to the short roll, and then that short roll was then getting it to the corner or getting it to somebody underneath the basket. So they did their job. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. But the Nuggets, on the other hand, they didn't. They didn't at all. And Jamal Murray, he's not shown up to the season so far in the way that you would have hoped.
OKC Thunder 99-83 over the Phoenix Suns. They moved to 11-2, and the way that they have adapted since Chet went down, using this like super small lineup and just really being impactful on both sides of the ball, is this sustainable for them to keep winning at this level? Or do you think there's the lack of size now with Chet being out is going to eventually catch up with them?
Yeah, I don't think that is sustainable versus like the elite teams, but versus teams that are already flawed, that they have advantages over. Yeah, I mean, why not? They're very talented. They got the Dallas Mavericks coming up next. They got the Suns. Obviously, they just played with no Kevin Durant. But yeah, I mean, they could. I mean, Shea goes out there in 28, 6-4, 11-25. They only scored 99 points today. They can be got. We've seen them get got so far this year. But I do think, man, that like they are going to need a big at some point. Like starting J-Dub at center versus some of these other teams in the West, the Nuggets, the Lakers, and the Wolves, for instance, that's going to be trouble. And so I don't think they're going to be able to do that in those matchups.
Yeah, we'll see how they continue to adjust to that. The Detroit Pistons get their 6th win on the season, 99-95 over the Toronto Raptors. And I'm going to tell you this right now, Swiper. I'm not even going to go into some deep analysis here. This was like the Dust Bowl, bro.
Look, I get it, but hey, shout out the Pistons.
Yeah.
I mean, did you think they were going to be this good to start the year
No,
off?
I did not. And especially
didn't.
in the Eastern Conference that you pointed out is bad. Like the Pistons could make the play-in easily this year.
Oh, man, if the Pistons make the play-in in the Eastern Conference, I'm telling you, just go ahead and restructure everything.
That's hilarious.
No, but shout out. I mean, look, Cade Cunningham, I like Cade Cunningham.
Yeah,
People
I
don't
like
like
Cade
him. 15 and 10 today, 10 assists, 6-21 from the field. You got Beasley, they got Jaden Ivey, 14, 2, and 5. Tobias Harris, double-double today. They actually have like some really decent players that are professionals. And if you don't show up and you get your professional business on with this team, then you're going to get called out for it, as they should. And I think that they have a new culture. They have a new identity they're building. And it's working. Like, I think this is just a part of development. You want to be bad and young, but you don't want to be bad and young like Houston Rockets with Steven Silas, where everything is chaotic. Like, you want things to have structure. And I think they have structure. And I think you can see that in how they're playing.
Last game of the night, 123-118, the Golden State Warriors over the Memphis Grizzlies. The Golden State Warriors just continue to find a way. No 20-point scorer in this game, but they do have 6 players that score in double digits. They just keep finding a way to win. They're 10-2 on the season as well. Are the Golden State Warriors legit contenders to come out the West, or is this just a hot stretch right now to start off the season, Swipe?
Contenders and they could be a high seed in the NBA going into the playoffs, but depending on the matchup, I think they can be had, but they can also beat most people in the Western Conference too. So they're somewhere in the middle.
Do you think they make a move? There's a lot of rumors that they want to make a move to bring in somebody. Do you think they end up making that move?
Oh man, we heard Lauri Markkanen, we heard Paul George. Now we're hearing Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
Sure, they could if they wanted to, but they already apparently were reticent to not trade Brandon Podziemski as it was, and then Jonathan Kuminga. So maybe if they decide they want to trade, they're comfortable trading one of those players. But as of right now, I feel like they might just stay as is.
We'll see. But anything left, Swipe, before we get up out of here, man?
Man, it's a crazy NBA night. It's got a lot of great games coming up this weekend as well.
For sure. And the NBA got to find a better way to balance. The fact that there was 12 games tonight, 1 game last night on Thursday. What is the NBA doing with the schedule, man? They got to find a better balance on that. But nonetheless, man, we want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls. Also, your favorite NBA team does have a newsletter here on Locked On, the Locked On Podcast Network. Just go to lockedondaily.com, find your favorite team, and sign up for the newsletter, the daily newsletter for that team. But for Swiper, I'm Haize. We're out of here, and we'll see you guys next Friday, man. Peace.